is your destiny. There's a strange way life unfolds, as if everything happens exactly the way it was meant to. Maybe it's fate, or maybe a person creates their own fate, their own life, their own happiness. Isn't it true that from the very first steps, from the first words we speak, we begin choosing who we become? No one can truly live your life for you. No one can think your thoughts, make your choices, or carry your dreams. In the end, everything depends on what you believe and what you dare to do. But is that really true? Long ago in an old and quiet town, people lived their separate lives. Each carried their own hopes, fears, disappointments, and secret desires. One autumn evening, a man walked alone through the empty streets. There was no one around him, only darkness, silence, and the whisper of the wind. Autumn had settled over the town beautifully. Golden and crimson leaves drifted through the air beneath the fading light of the sunset. The wind pushed them across the pavement like scattered memories. The man walked slowly with his head lowered, listening to the dry leaves crackling beneath his shoes. It had been another terrible day, but honestly, he believed his entire life had become one long disappointment. He was a poet. People often imagine poets and writers living peaceful lives. They think writers simply sit comfortably somewhere, creating stories while others struggle through exhausting labor. But few understand how difficult it is to create something meaningful. Few understand what it feels like to sit awake through endless nights, staring at a blank page, trying to write words that matter, words that might touch another human soul. He wanted to be understood. That evening, he had just returned from a publishing office with his newest work. They rejected it. Again, it doesn't fit what we're looking for, they had told him politely. As he walked home through the cold streets, bitterness filled his thoughts. Life is unfair, he thought. Everything I tried to build has failed. What else could he have done? Some people would say he chose the wrong profession, but maybe he never chose it at all. Maybe some callings are born inside a person long before they understand them. For him, writing wasn't work, it was breathing. His life felt like an unfinished book, a story abandoned halfway through. Others would tell him, write what people want to hear. But how could he write lies? How could he describe a beautiful world that didn't exist? He saw too clearly what was happening around him. He saw broken dreams, lost lives, people pretending to be happy while slowly falling apart inside. And among all those ruined lives was his own. When he reached the next block, he stopped walking. For the first time that night, he raised his head toward the sky. It was dark, empty, without a single visible star. Slowly, he climbed the narrow staircase leading to his apartment. The same thoughts continued circling through his mind. I'll sit at the desk again, I'll think, and think, and think. Maybe somehow, maybe something will come to me. But those thoughts exhausted him. He entered his small, worn-out room and lit an old lamp. The dim yellow light revealed cracked walls, stacks of paper, and unfinished pages scattered across the table. What a terrible life, he whispered. What am I supposed to write? About what? Again and again he repeated the same hopeless questions to himself. Finally, he sat down and opened his notebook. He was tired. So tired of papers, tired of rejection, tired of trying. Without realizing it, sleep slowly overcame him. Then suddenly, a violent gust of wind burst through the open window. The poet woke instantly. The room had become strangely cold. He lifted his head and froze. Near the window stood a glowing shape. At first, it looked unclear and distant, like light moving through fog. But within seconds, it slowly formed into something human. Its dark eyes carefully examined the room. The figure remained silent for a moment before finally speaking. "So you're writing again?" The poet stared in shock. He could barely breathe. He couldn't understand whether he was awake or trapped inside a dream. The figure looked directly at him. "I know what you're thinking," it said quietly. Then, after a pause, it continued. "Have you ever wondered what truly stands in your way?" The poet said nothing. "But I know," the figure whispered. "You expect failure before you even begin. You stopped believing in the future. You live inside the past." The room became silent again. Then came the question that struck deeper than anything else. "Where is your hope?" The poet lowered his eyes. "Has it died?" The glowing figure stepped closer. "Then bring it back to life. Believe in yourself, and everything will change." The poet listened without moving. A human being can achieve incredible things if they truly want to. At that exact moment, another powerful gust of wind crashed through the room. The window slammed shut with a deafening bang. The poet jumped from his chair in fear. Silence. Complete silence. The room was empty. No glowing figure, no voice, nothing. Only the trembling light of the lamp remained. Slowly, he realized he had fallen asleep. It was only a dream. Or was it? He sat there breathing heavily while one thought echoed through his mind. "Bring back your hope." He turned toward the window. Outside, the night sky had changed. Now, thousands of stars burned brightly above the city. For a long moment, he simply stared at them. Then quietly, almost carefully, he reached for his pen. "I need to write," he whispered. And this time, something inside him felt different. Years passed. The world changed. People changed. And so did he. The struggling poet eventually became known far beyond that small forgotten town. Readers admired his honesty. His words touched hearts because they carried truth. And if you had met him then, you would never recognize the lonely man who once wandered hopelessly through empty autumn streets. That's how life works sometimes. A person builds themselves piece by piece, step by step, choice by choice. No one else can live your life for you. No one else can create your future. Your life is your destiny, and only you can decide what to do with it in this uncertain and ever-changing world.
Thank you for listening to my story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Watch it to the end and see the finished painting, which I also painted.